三请教书两千孙. And welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a weekly YouTube show discussing spirituality and science, balancing health and well-being with twist. Tao means the way, the balance, the path. The normal talk show. Each week we have a subject or a guest. This week we have the return of a mighty guest. And our aim is to have an open discussion to help us all find new skills and new techniques to balance our very own personal Tao. Evening all. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And as always, we have an interesting show ahead. We have the great Kirk Kerber back once again. And firstly, as always, on this heroic journey, I have some gallant co-hosts with me. And so tonight, we will start off with the robust, the rather Scottish. It is Robbie McKenzie.
Hi.
I've always known as Robbido.
Och, I know. Hi.
Indeed. I can either do indeed. Good evening, Robbie. How are you doing?
I'm doing grand. Thank you very much. Embracing this post midsummer night dream that I'm embracing right now.
The heat wave, indeed.
Yeah.
And you're in a as well. Obviously,
you think you're in a heat wave? You want to see Spain?
I know. We're in a fridge compared to you. I know. We're in a chill box compared to you. You're cooking. You're not even cooking on gas. You're cooking on thermonuclear energy.
Get along.
But anyway, we digress. So next co-host is the wonderful, the auspicious, the very good at questions. It is the questioner, aka Chris Clussum. Good evening, Chris. How are you doing?
Good evening, Boggie. I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Are you ready to come up with some corkers?
Fingers crossed.
We're any luck. Let's hope. And then, so tonight we have an old guest who has returned. It is the awesome Kirk Kerber.
And it all went quiet. Oh dear. It looks like Boggie might have locked up already. Right, okay. I
think he's really messing with his electronics, eh?
Yeah, or his chi is one of the two.
Yeah, well.
Sorry about that, Kirk. He's cut him off mid-flow. Right, so we normally would ask, or Boggie would ask, what is your way, what is your Tao? But since we explored that last time, I think we'll move on from that question, don't you think, Robbie?
Yeah, sure. I've not really had time to look at bios and everything, but welcome to the show. And I never saw your way, so I'm actually still interested. What is your way? I read a little bit about your practices, and I thought it was very intriguing. But I just had a quick read through just about 10 minutes ago, so that's very interesting. Very interesting what you do, eh? And how you approach things. It's like a jack of all trades and master of many, I'm sure. Yeah. So what have you done since you last were on the show? Yeah. How has your life unfolded?
Well, I continue to take on my clients, and just kind of simplify, clarify, and streamline. And trust the universe is unfolding as it should. And, trying to watch the signs and symbols along the way. Where am I supposed to go? I feel a lot of things wrapping up right now for me personally. So I'm kind of in a hallway type of experience. So that takes kind of nerves of steel sometimes.
I think a lot of light workers are going through that just now, yeah. I think, and however you quantify the systems, but the way that the earth is raising in its vibration, or humans are raising in their vibration, or everything's being brought into a real clearance point. It's bringing the people who have some sort of understanding over what their energy system is into the next stage of their learning, or their, like you say, doorways. You know, like, what's the next stage for me? What's the next stage for my learning, my mastery, or my participation in this global expansion of consciousness? Yeah. And lots of different traditions, I think, being merged into one as well. There's so many people talk about picking and choosing your religion and your spirituality, but I think these are all just manifestations of our consciousness anyway, you know. And I think the more open we come to that, the more we do have more doorways, you know. What doorways do you feel you're moving forward towards? It feels like what you're saying, your energy is like on a tightrope just now, and you're not sure. It's like there's two tightropes here, and you're not sure which one to go onto. That's what the energy seems to be from your energy system.
Boy, I don't have a clear idea. So when you're not clear, I think, you know, you either you have the wisdom to wait. So know when to act and know when to just pull back and wait and listen. I think I'm going to move into writing. You know, I've been writing about spiritual things for the last 25 years, but I think I'm going to move into a greater audience of like spiritual ebooks. And I'm streamlining a course for like students of spirituality, but a little more hardcore than just like, hey, I'm going to light some candles and try and get in touch. And kind of like the person that really wants to streamline and kind of be, you know, like really evolved, powerful in every way, and then start to garner some wisdom. So I've got it down to 9 levels right now that anybody can practice. And that's about it. You know, just if the universe wants me to spend time with somebody as a client, I trust that the universe put me together with that person, whatever modalities I understand, whatever language I speak, whatever kind of medicine at that time they bring me, that's the right person at the right time. And to, you know, fully to fully be present. You know, you just can't be too present. I mean, fully present is, you've got fully present, then you've got fully present in touch with the elements, then you've got fully present in touch with wisdom and the elements, and then fully present and manipulating the elements to the way you want them, and moving the elements, combining the elements. So for whatever reason, if I want to create fog, say I want to create fog, for whatever reason, you know, that's gets into the realm of like mastery type of things. You know what I'm saying? I want to banish these clouds. I'm very in tune with the weather. You know, I can't always be that powerful, but I've demonstrated it in the past. You know, you can accrue power over many lifetimes and then integrate it into this lifetime. But if you're not...
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, I think you got a phone call.
Yeah.
Talking about power and being able to combine elements, being balanced with elements, but also being able to create something that you want to create, materialize, manifest, birth. I'm also an alchemist. So, you know, what do I want to create next, I think is the right question. You know, what do I want to birth? What wants to be birthed through you? What wants to be birthed through me? You know, I think a lot of like older souls, for lack of a better term, you know, I think they just kind of got here and they hide and they're not really sure what they're doing. So one of my imperatives is to kind of get them to come out of the closet, as it is, and get them to stop hiding. Because, you know, these old souls are like, or advanced souls are, you know, well, the world's not the way I want it to be. And, you know, I'm too sensitive and I don't like what's happening with the animals. The only way that's going to change is if you step up and start being seen and stop hiding your talents and your powers and your gifts. And a lot of us got attacked in this lifetime, and many others, for, you know, being powerful. And, you know, what I try to do and have the universe send me those people to bring them out of hiding. So I do specialize in a couple of types of things, and getting people to stop hiding is one of them. So
why do people feel the need to hide then? So they have whatever talent or gift. Is it that they're afraid of the ridicule, or is it that they're just old and tired and don't really want to go through all the rigmarole again?
Okay, you know, look at an older person. There's two types of older quote unquote people. You know, there's the one that's full of fear, and the one that's got way too much residue, and the one that's shaking and kind of like threw off their divine essence and kind of just absorbed the darkness and doesn't really know what to do with it. And then there's this other rare person that's the sage, the mage, they're full of light. They don't have any more fear, in a sense, which is to be fully enlightened. And if they need something, they attract it to them, they create it, and they're basically going to be here as long as they want, and they're basically at peace. So which one do you want to be? You know, we're a collective soul group, a collective consciousness. So, you know, people are like, well, I want the world to be like this and I want the world to be like that. Well, then you're going to have to bring your energy out. So that's part one. Part two is, you know, if you, we'll just presuppose that all of us agree that on reincarnation and reincarnation of your soul, many different bodies, one lifetime, so to speak. You know, a lot of us were killed as witches, as burned at the stake, tortured, or, you know, daring to challenge the power structures throughout time. So, you know, that's a deep kind of soul residue that people get. So in a very real sense, I can see why people will hide, you know?
But in a way, when you think about it, I mean, there are already people out there doing charitable deeds and soup kitchens, things to help people less fortunate, clothes drives, practical things to help people. What sort of more things do you think? I appreciate it's quite difficult to name exact things, but I mean, what is it that's sort of missing? What's the ingredient that's missing to actually change the world, to make it more humane and to get away from where we are now? What do you, I mean, in general, you know, it might be a difficult question to answer. I'm sorry.
Well, the short version, stop hiding your power, stop hiding your creativity, and basically get into your body, clear out the pain and the energy blocks, get harmonized. You don't have to leave your house in order to change the world. You know, if 25% of my country or your country or both countries or the planet decided to meditate on a daily basis and have the intention of creating a more humane world, that would materialize, in my opinion, you know, in a matter of months.
Okay, so that's sorry, I had a mouthful of water there. So that, I mean, that's interesting in itself. I mean, meditation, we hear a lot about it, and there's so many different types of meditation. What is it about meditation that would allow that change to occur?
Well, okay, if you believe in magic and or believe in mages that can project, you know, there's a dark side and there's a light side. There's a healthy intention and an unhealthy one. There's a heartfelt, loving intention, and there's the exact opposite of that intention, and that would be the intention of bringing people farther away from source or into a state of darkness. And having said that, then if you look at modern media, you know, projections upon entire, like at least in America here, you know, advertising is just off the chain. It's constant. It's everywhere. You know, one of the first things is to take back your mind from these magic projections and illusions. You know, basically advertising in the media is just a global projection or spell. And, you know, nobody really knows what to believe. So basically the best thing you can do, turn your TV off and unplug. But in answer to your meditation, then life would take on a more meditative quality. You know, you can get your mind back into your body and, you know, sit in stillness. I mean, when you talk to people and you look at websites about meditation, or I try to tell my clients, new clients, you know, you need to meditate, which is contemplate, affirm, be in a period of stillness. They can't do it for even 10 minutes. Something is wrong if you cannot sit in your home, media free, you know, without this for 10 minutes, and they cannot do it. They cannot. A beginner's meditation is 5 to 7 minutes max. So why can't people, you know, what it does ultimately, it reintegrates rather than fragments you from your mind, body, spirit, etc.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions that sort of came to mind. Boggie, I don't know if you want to jump in. Sorry.
Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Well, also, firstly, I'd like to actually welcome hello, Marilyn. A quick hi. How you doing? Have you got a question? Or, you know, is there a question there waiting already?
Hello and welcome. Sorry, I muted myself, so I just had to switch back on. Yeah, fascinating conversation. I just came in at the bit just after you were talking about the weather, and my first assignment when I went over to Hawaii was to create a double rainbow, which we did manage to do. So I was fascinated to kind of hear you talking about that and the weather. And in terms of kind of what you and Chris were talking about with regards to hiding, the biggest things that I've seen with regards to many of the people that I come across who have got an amazing message to share, they are fantastically gifted and talented, but there is a fear of speaking out. I guess in Australia they call it the tall poppy syndrome, where you don't want to be the one who stands out. And I've often said to people, if you do have a belief in past lives, very much like you were saying in terms of the sense of persecution, the sense of being kind of ostracized for your views. And so for me, it is that one about it's eternally interesting in terms of people not wanting to speak out, not wanting to be seen, worried about what other people will say about them, fear of being criticized. So I'm very interested in what you're saying about making a difference from your living room, because in our social media age, it appears that you need to have a platform, and you need to have quite a big platform to make a difference. So I would love to hear a little bit more about how you can actually make a difference, just, sitting in your living room if you're, you haven't got access to those big platforms.
Sure. If a person becomes integrated and powerful in their own sense of self-power, just that person walking around with a clear energy and a clear aura is the only message that needs to be put out there. It doesn't even have to be spoken. This is not transmitted through words. We've all been at a restaurant, okay, or a bar or a public place, and all of a sudden this person walks through the door and boom, it's a message. Like, turn around. What is this? This person's powerful. They're something. That's one message. Then here comes the next person. The person's toxic, or, they're acting out. Everybody turns around. Well, that's their message. So it's kind of, I guess, in a simplistic way, you walking around and just being on the planet with a clear, streamlined self, that's the only message you need. If everybody just did that, what else do you need? People get the message, because see, deceit works on all kinds of projections and machinations and, all kinds of maybe and I don't know and doubt and deception and shadow. But then, when you see the sun is the sun. There it is. Do you have any other comments, or is that?
Well, I was. Sorry, go on, Boggie.
I just a couple of things. First, like I said, the weather one I always find interesting. I know there's evidence about change, like say as Marion said about creating rainbows. There's a great book, Richard Buck, who did two books, two of my favorite books. One is Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and the other one was called The Reluctant Messiah. And that book was or what was part of in that book was that the guy was actually could make clouds disappear. He could dissolve a cloud. And in Taoism, called the Cloud Whisperers, that they had that ability by or they could, like if it was dry, they could create storms and make it rain. If it never stopped raining, they could make clouds disappear, make it blue sky. So a very similar thing, which Marilyn I know knows, is the Ho'oponopono, which I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, which is a clearing exercise because of the understanding that the universe and you are all one. So anything on the outside has a representation within you. Therefore, what the Cloud Whisperers used to do in ancient China is they would park themselves on a village or outside the village, and if there was, like say, for example, if it being time and no rain, they would resonate with the imbalanced energy within themselves that's resonating in that area, and by clearing the imbalance within them, they would on the outside around them. Now, similar things have been done with the FBI, have done things of meditations where they've had so many people in a hotel meditating in an area of peace and love, and it's dropped the crime rate by 20% there. And that was originally, I think it was 2,000 people, and they did one with 7,000, and it actually affected the crime rate worldwide by about 15%. and these tests, they're out there. If you actually Google them, you can find them, the FBI tests, meditational tests. So this thing of like being in your room, being at home, theory, if you want to put it that way, in theory, is that you can change things around, you know, what's inside, you can affect the outside. This thing about all like creating a media presence. Well, the interesting thing is you get a lot of people who are just using things like Facebook, just using things like Twitter, and just through their immediate friends slowly building up their presence and then turning outwards. And it's, I mean, for you, Kirk, is that sort of, I know I jumped into two different subjects there, but with like the spreading out the presence, is that what is sort of that what you mean? Is like, you know, from your own home, actually doing it via web, or actually doing it in a different way?
Well, okay, you know, I'm in New York City. There's a lot of upheaval on any given time of any day. We have a lot of protests and just a lot of upheaval and a lot of parades and a lot of, you know, things that are right on the verge of getting out of hand. And, you know, I think that you set people free by your very presence. So that would be my intention. I don't think there's a person alive on the planet that is not, and I tell this to my clients, you know, we're all in a third chakra power lesson, okay, for right now, for whatever reason, for good or for bad. I think that there's a major third chakra clearing right now. So, but I think, you know, a person that's clean and clear, that's all the message you need to have. Your presence should be setting people free. Having said that, what they started doing instead of protesting and stopping traffic and yelling at the police, they stopped doing that, and they basically just show up at a place and they don't talk and they don't say anything at all. And you just show up there in silence. So, you know, here's the one that's all in your face, trying to, you know, Fox News or whoever it is, whatever it is, and they're trying to tell you and convince you, and here it is, and buy, or whatever, and, you know, it's all like this. And then here's the one that, you know, doesn't say anything. So the silence is more powerful.
Yeah, I've actually seen that. There was a couple of things about these silent protests. So it's, yeah, it is. And I find them quite interesting.
If you take, you know, the silence and then put an intention behind, all right, this is what I want to see. This is what I'm creating. You know, I mean, some things are a hop and skip and a jump for me. Retrieving somebody's soul is like me blinking my eyes and I can go and find it in another dimension. Boom. Now, if I want to create this other thing in my personal life, well, you know, now I'm struggling. I can't get it out, and I've read all the books, and I'm, you know, it's not happening. What's wrong? It's not, you know. So, you know, I think to be full power, I mean, technically all it takes is one person to be fully, completely, totally evolved. You know, let's talk about the 12 monkey, okay? You know, I'll know that, you know, on one island, they teach them to do it, and then they go to the next island, and all over the world pretty soon, they're all doing it. So if you want to affect the mass consciousness, you know, that I'm not exactly sure. I'm also not exactly sure that the universe is not perfect on any given day exactly the way it is. We came here to experience the world of forms, and the world of forms comes with a limitation. On the other side, we don't have the limitation. But now we're here as, you know, little magicians or masters to try and say, you know, I want to try this, or I want to do that, or I want to create this, or I want to leave this gift. And that, you know, takes a while. Like I didn't know I was an alchemist. You know, I didn't know what my true gifts were. I didn't know. Comments, questions?
How did you find out what your gifts were?
The universe kind of just repeatedly sent me messengers and symbols and messages until finally I streamlined. I mean, one of my gifts is to get people unstuck. And I know that if a new person shows up, they're about to go through a huge transformation. But I had to undergo that repeatedly, trying to pay attention to it until I started connecting the dots. It took me about 20, 30 years to connect those dots to be like, yep. Now when I get a client that's actually sitting in front of me, either phone to phone on the cam or in my actual space, it's a guarantee and a promise, you know, that person, for me, with my clients and what the universe sends me, that person's about to undergo some unbelievable turn of a corner and a huge transformation. So that's one thing. You know, my gifts versus my preferences, you know, my preferences on like what I use and the kind of medicine I bring, alchemy. I wanted to kind of maybe talk about herbs and throw that out there. And also flower and plant essences. I make my own, my clients always get anointed, and I make my own scents. I don't sell them. These are only for my clients. So, you know, if you've been going towards something for 30 years and this is what, you know, then you could say I have a gift of alchemy, you know, because I mix these oils to the benefit of my clients. So, you know, I do hold, I have on my website a 3-week session where you meet in 3 weeks. And if the client wants to talk about coming out of hiding, like we were talking, I will kind of bring them out and help them to identify and streamline their own spiritual gifts. I operate under the assumption that everybody has a gift and everybody has a genius for something. You know, if you're a shamanic healer or you're a wise person or a sage, you know, you can probably sum that up in a matter of like 10 minutes with the person. You know, the truth is obvious. The truth is obvious. And so you just let everything else fall away. You know, so we're not searching for the truth. The work is not to find the truth. Truth is in front of you. The work is to go beyond, one step beyond all the lies. So the truth is obvious. So all you have to do is just let the lies fall away.
I watched a great cartoon film. I won't say which one, but they basically made a joke about the fact that to get enlightenment, this master had to go sit in a cave for 50 years and sit there over and over asking, who am I? Who am I? And the prophecy was that this particular guy was going to have to master chi in order to save the valley. And he goes, quick, I need a cave and 50 years to go learn and master get enlightenment. But if you haven't got 50 years to get enlightenment or to discover what your skills are, is there a smoother way, should we say, of finding your path?
Well, what's your definition of enlightenment, Christopher? I mean, you can have periods of absolute and total enlightenment, whether you consider yourself a spiritual person or not. So, you know, I think you're talking in terms of like a long-term Buddhist, I'm a completely clear person. To me, enlightenment is a person without fear. That's it. That's a, you know, so we do have times where we act from an enlightened place, but to maintain that, say as a Jesus or a Buddha or a Saint Germain, to maintain that as a consciousness constantly and always, and also operate off your full power with intention, with the right intention, with wisdom, that's another thing. Okay, that's, you know, a whole other, know when to act and then know when to not act. Those are your two choices. That is the wisest question, in my opinion, you can ask. So, you know, I mean, you can basically, on this course that I'm trying to write in 9 levels, the first thing that you're going to do in level 1, for a couple of weeks, you're going to just get and return to stillness. Then you're going to release judgment. So for an entire week, you're going to release judgment, which means you're going to stop projecting. And you're just going to try to see things as they are. I think it's even a Buddhist tenet, right? The master just sees things as they are, right, Paul? Is that so? Yeah. You know, you're going to practice that. And then the next week is you're going to try and repair your relationship to yourself and others. And it kind of goes. So basically, you know, just very slowly we get lighter and lighter. So if you want to talk about enlightenment, you know, I'm the no bullshit shaman. I get every dirty job and, you know, I got to talk to somebody and figure things out in 2 minutes for them. And I'm that guy. And you know what? If you don't want that guy, don't come and see me. Go and see somebody else that's going to sugarcoat shit, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm the old soul and I'm an ancient soul. And you know what? Brevity is the wit of the soul. So if you need a root canal, sweetheart, I'm not going to tell you, look, you know, come back in 6 months. No, it's time for a root canal, and we're going to have to probably yank the tooth out. You want a little pain now, or do you want a lot of pain later? People don't want to hear that. Well, now they come back to me in a year. You were right. And now I could have saved myself an entire year. So I don't know what the whole point of that is. Anyways. Well,
I was thinking, Kirk. So basically, you're the A-team shaman. Is you know stick you in a shed. You'll create the holy temple. You'll find a way through. You'll truth. You won't sugarcoat it. It'll be the way it is, but it'll short, sharp shock.
Well, you know, I mean, living in Manhattan for going on 35 years, it's kind of like, you know, I'm surrounded by 9 million people every day. What, you know, this is what it is. This is what it is. And, you know, it's the only answer to that question that you're ever going to get, because that is the answer to that question. So, you know, I don't know, questions, comments?
Kirk, you had talked, you said something about retraining the soul. Can you just say a little bit more about what that is and what that means and how you do it?
Did I say repair?
Oh, repair, right. Okay, how do you repair the soul?
Well, I think I said repair the relationship, but what you really want to do, the majority of people, in my opinion, after the work I've been doing, I don't think we have direct contact with our soul directly. Okay, so some people say, like if you go online and you say, okay, here's our energy points, but we also know that, you know, we have, okay, in Hindu mysticism, you're going to have 7 to 8 points, and these are known as what we see on those charts, online chakras, and their color and their vibration. I think there's up to 22 spiritual points, and they go up into the ethers and up into the dimensions. Now, what I see with what I do is that the upper points that with their soul, because they don't have direct contact with your soul. It's too intense. So the soul is hanging out on the ether, and it's like connected to these, say, 22 points. 22 sounds about right to me. It's a Kabbalistic number. It's a power number. Everybody agrees. If that person's soul disappears for whatever reason, usually through trauma, heavy trauma and abuse, or one kind of situation that frightened them so badly, I'm going to go and find that soul and kind of like get it at least on their block in their city. And then, you know, the soul to repair that severing of what happened. You know, you also have the spirits of somebody's heart in Eastern mysticism and Eastern medicine. So each chakra has spirits in Eastern mystical medicine. So we will need to also get back the spirits of your heart. In short terms, the way I talk, which now I understand the point of it was, I try to make things in, you know, 1 or 2 sentences. So basically, look, this is how I talk to my clients, exactly like this. Your pilot light went out. I'm the right guy, and I'm going to put it back on. I don't need to tell them I'm going to get your soul. I don't need to tell them, you know, I'm going to go back and, you know, tonight during my meditation, gently set the spirits of your heart down next to you. Because it's too weird and scary, and they can't, like, deal with that. But what you really want to do is, you know, your soul is in communication with what I also believe, and I'm a big, let me see, it's right by my Journey of Souls Newton fan. If you know Journey of Souls book and soul groups and that whole construct, I'm a big fan of, like, we also incarnate as soul groups. So you're in touch, you're around. It's just that you want a little more direct contact with it than if, you know, you're in a dark night of the soul for a year or 2 years, something like that. So yes, it can be repaired. You know, I'm a big fan on herbs and herbal healing. And once again, like I said, aromatherapy is just as powerful as a healing tool. Like, okay, so my client comes to me and they're in deep trauma. We're going to give them some lavender. I'm also going to give them some sage to clean the house. But here's a thing I think you might like to know, Marilyn, is I'm a big fan of recalibration right now. So repair, restore, renew, and recalibrate, because I think a lot of the trauma is that we expect something to lift before it's ready to lift, or we expect something to get healed before it could get healed, or we're, you know, if you took a person that was in darkness their whole life, you're not going to throw them outside without some protection factor. They're going to get burned, okay? They're not going to be ready for that, all of that expansion of their consciousness. So a lot of times I think I tell the person, recalibrate. You know, it's like you expect this to live, but it takes what it takes. So you're going to have to get your breath back and, you know, get your sense of timing to be different. And, you know, I talked to one of the wisest things I've ever heard that I applied to myself spiritually was I knew a police chief, a sergeant, and he said when, you know, a person in a ghetto or a poor part of New York gets shot, they don't die. They just get in the car, they go, hey, I've been shot. I get in the car and I go to the hospital and they don't die. He said when a person in a rich part of town or something gets stabbed or shot, they just die. Because they're like, it's not their calibration to be like, oh my God, I'm stabbed, I die. And he said they just die even though they're not going to die. Or they was, you know. So the recalibration to me is, no, you're not done, and no, it's not healed. And, you know, like I do get because I read a person's soul, I can see pretty much how many years they've been given with a few exit points along the way. A lot of people are like, you know, I'm almost at the end. And I'm like, no, you're not, honey. You're not even close to the end, sweetie. So that would be a recalibration and a repairing. So you're like, oh, you mean I've got 25 more years? Yeah. Yeah. So guess what? You're not getting out that easy. And you better start making some choices because you still got 25 years to hang out here, not 20 months. I'm sorry. Questions, comments?
Marilyn.
Oh, sorry. Go for it. Go for it, Chris.
I was just going to say, do you want to follow up on that?
Well, the thing, seriously, my brain is like, oh my God. But one of the things that I'm really intrigued about, and it's a question I've been asking several people of late, in terms of the soul, in terms of you just saying, okay, you've got 20 years, not 20 months. Would you say then from your experience and what you've seen that we almost agree before we come into this lifetime, how long we're going to be here for, the kind of experiences we're going to have and how we're going to leave the planet? Is that scripted, or is it again derailed by our free will and what we tend to do? What would be your thoughts on that?
Sure. One of the other things that I excel in, and so on my site, I read a person's soul timeline. So one of the gifts that I've been given is the ability to connect to their soul, see the timeline, you know, go into something called the Akashic, which we all agree are called the Akashic. And I'm going to explain it to you like this, and I explain it in my YouTube videos like this. You go to a travel agent and you're like, hey, I want to go to India. Okay, how long do you want to be gone for? I want to be gone a month. I want to land in London. Then I want to go down to Paris. And then I want to, you know, finally get in Bombay. And then so you map out an itinerary. Okay, so you have a reservation here on the 5th at, you know, this hotel in this city. And then you have this, and you get the whole thing. So are some things supposed to happen? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is everything supposed to happen? No. You know, depending on if you want to go, astrology is not my gift, but when I have a question about somebody and I need a clarification, then you go ahead and study the astrology chart as well, and you find out this person has a lot of leeway. So I came in to just study creativity, not necessarily be a painter. So, and then other people are like, nope, you are here to be a musician. Your entire astrological chart is here. And, you know, you've got a couple constructs going on in your astrology that really you don't have any, you're not going to have any kind of romantic relationships. They're going to fall apart. Do you understand? So basically, you make an itinerary, and you know something better might come up. I work with a lot of artists, and so the artist comes in with the spiritual imperative and the filter to want to be an artist and be creative. If they don't engage in that and spend their time and efforts in that, their life is going to basically veer off into addiction. So we set up the circumstances, say with a counselor or a counsel, you know what I mean? And then likewise on that trip, hey, I see a little side trip. Maybe I'm going to go and, you know, I'm going to go sell little stampings at a fair. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to play the harmonica for a couple months. But basically, time allotted, in my opinion, is a guarantee. Now, I also read another book about pre-life, afterlife. It said there's exit points. So, you know, I think when a soul is wanting, you know, to have the experience, there's a tendency to pad things so densely that you can't really know, you know, if we'll take the example of being in Bombay, being in India. I could watch it on the YouTube video. I can read books about it. You know, I can talk to people that have been there. Until you get onto that street with all those smells and the sights and the colors, you're just not going to know. For some people, it's a little too much. So there's a thing built in, maybe exit points. Some people have 1 exit point. Some people have up to 7, maybe more. And I think we've all kind of like, if you go back, you understand there's an exit point. So I think that hit most of your, you know, I think it's an itinerary. It's a basic idea. It's like, this is a classroom. And, you know, we get little side trips. Some people have more, can go back and forth and have a broader life. And then other people intentionally built in a very, you know, like, let me see, by the time I was, well, let me see, by 40, no. You know, I had 5 near-death experiences, and I had my head split open twice, and compounded sexual, physical, compounded trauma. And I know a lot of heavyweights like myself have that in common. So for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? Like the next person, maybe they're not gonna, you know. So I think all of that was meant to happen to make me into what I am right now.
Wow. And it's so funny. I had a conversation with a friend recently. You know, we both share a similar background in terms of the sexual abuse, blah, blah, blah. But we were kind of saying it seems that a lot of people who are in the spiritual world and doing the kind of work that we're doing have had that background. So it almost seems to be like the training ground, which is, I don't know, but it's so common, but it's not common in that people don't often talk about it unless it comes up in conversation. But when I do talk to people about it, or, you know, they just want to share, it just seems to be par for the course, that almost seems to be one of the character building exercise of this lifetime, which I find fascinating and interesting. And I know for me, I don't think I'd be the person I am today had it not been for those experiences. So I would totally agree with you on that one.
I think, I mean, I've sort of said this before, like the martial arts is a common thing in China, especially the old stories of martial art heroes, and they had, you know, they were poorly as kids, and you know, some of the great physicians of China were very ill. They had these big downs, and you know, from that, you know, they get through this trauma. The hero's journey, one of the old codes will talk about the hero's journey. In the hero's journey, you have these low points, and then from the low points you get through those low points, and then, you know, then there's the up. And I remember about being like 9 years old and thinking that, you know, everyone in life has a period of up, a period of down, and a period of neutral. And for every person, different. Everybody sort of gets allocated. Not everybody's exactly the same. Everybody gets different allocations of this, but the downs are marker points, aren't they? They're milestones. You know, they're milestones in your life, and in essence, they will lead you one way or the other. If you'll either find a way through them, or they'll stall you, or they'll stop you. You know, that's what the milestones are there. And there was an interesting thing. I'm sort of working through the whole manifestation stuff, and I find there's this real interesting thing with manifestation where people, like, you know, the law of attraction, you know, they want a certain thing, and they say, but every time I one thing, there's something negative happens. And there's the Daoist concept of that is that the bigger the up, the bigger the down, the bigger the down, the bigger the up. Is that when you start trying to wield the magic, that you have the ability to control, you are the universe, you are the creator. But when you take responsibility for that, it is like the Taoist saying, one of my teacher Poe's saying, is it is like the water circling in a bowl. It's going clockwise in the bowl. And when you want to change the flow of water, when you put your fingers in and start going the other way, there's a big splash. The water rides up and it's splashing and makes a bit of a mess. But eventually, doing that, the water will eventually go that new direction. And this thing is that when things are created or through these negative experiences we have, positive things happen. Our lives are changed, not necessarily by the positive stuff. Our lives are rewarded by the positive stuff, but it's the negative things that actually get us to work harder, to work stronger, to work faster. So it's from those negative things we learn and we grow and we expand. Anybody's viewpoints on that?
Okay, well, listen, the ultimate intention, and the ultimate intention is to take a body. Okay, so that's a primary intention. I want to expand, and I want to know the opposite. I want to know something. I want to accrue wisdom. I want to accrue knowledge. So we choose, okay? And then while you're here, if I really want to get it simple for a client, all you're doing is choosing. That's all you're doing all day long. If you're fully present, choose. You made this choice. You know what? That doesn't feel good. Or this happens every time I choose this. Well, you're free to choose it another 200 times. And then eventually, and I say this for myself, Kirk, it's the best choice you can make right now. Because I know I'm getting ready to mess up right now. One of those. Yeah, we all know what. Whatever it's going to be. It's going to be the guy or the ice cream or the food or I know. Kirk, is this the best choice you can make? Apparently not. No, I'm going to choose this again. So it's fine. You know what happens? My compassion for myself widens and deepens. And then when somebody comes to me and tells me, I did this. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Yes, I get it. So you're choosing. You're choosing. When you can get it simplified, clarified, and streamlined like that, then it makes sense. So you're choosing, Paul. That's alignment. Intention, alignment.
Okay.
Okay. Chris.
I just want to jump back a little bit to something we were talking about earlier, because I get this a lot where people say you need to turn off from the programming, you need to switch off from TV and advertising media and things like that. But surely to be present, to be aware, you need to be aware of what's going on around you. So if you deny the newspaper or the TV or some other media that everyone else is tuning into, then you're not aware of what's going on in that frequency, if you like, or that modality. I don't know what your thoughts are to that.
Is there a question in there, Christopher?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The question is, why is it that you give the advice to turn off from the TV? And do you feel that reduces your presence or makes you more aware?
Okay. You know what? One of the best things that ever happened to me was I did not have cable TV or any kind of TV for 10 years at one point. So if you're talking about what I was mentioning earlier, recalibration of your reality, that was very, very helpful. And actually, in that amount of time, that 10 years, I performed my poetry in public. I did open mics. I showed my artwork all over the city, and I mean, like, it was a really beautiful, wonderful time for me. what I think you're getting at is something that we'll call body programming. And, you know, we all have programming. There's a reason why you watch TV. It's called the program. You know, you're getting programmed to be sick. You're getting programmed to be diseased. You're getting programmed to live in debt. And you're basically getting programmed to, you know, have your divine essence kind of like raped out of you. And like, that's all okay. Well, guess what? When you get back into your body and you bring the mind back in and you sync everything up, all of a sudden, that's not, it's no, 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 no. So the representation of what we see on TV is not a representation of actual reality. Unfortunately, perception, I say this on my TV show, the truth, the facts, reality and perceptions, they almost never all line up. They just won't, because they're 5 different things. So, you know, at least in America, I mean, our larger reality is made up through perception of what I see on TV. If you've ever seen a film like Wag the Dog, or something to that effect, you know, their advertising spends billions and billions and millions and untold amount of money. What color is the package? You know, you watch a McDonald's commercial, you love it, 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 you love it. Get the point? So no, I don't love some dead, abused animal that's full of steroids and full of plastic shit. No, I don't, actually. So no, the answer is no. So it will recalibrate you to, like, I don't love a cheeseburger. No, you don't love it. I don't, that's not, you know.
Creating need, let's say. You need this item. You need to consume it. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah, that's in essence, that's what consumerism is all about, isn't it? Is creating a need, creating a want. You want this, you need this.
It tastes so great. Eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. Right, let's wrap up this part 1. And so it was a very interesting session for part 1. So for those on podcast, well, hope you enjoyed it. Part 2, it will be there as Flying Dead Pot, the American Blues and Twos. So I assume it's American Blues and Twos. I don't think it's Chris's side, so it sounds American. Anyway, I digress. So yep. So this was part 1. So I hope you enjoyed it. So I'd just like to say a quick thank you to our codes, which is the mighty Chris, the beautiful, lovely Marilyn, he's gone again, Robido, and actually I say Marilyn, I should say Agent 35. But anyway, so. And of course, thank you so much for this part 1. Thank you so much to Kirk himself. Thanks, Kirk. Hope you enjoyed it. And so, guys, go and look for part 2. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now. Love, Shin Shen, the way of conscious mindfulness. Shaggy. Okay, Chris, you got that one?
Yeah, it's fine.
Right, is everybody all cool? Do we need to get some water? I think we got. Oh, yeah. It's very hot in the UK at the moment, Kirk. So I think all the cows here are drinking 15 gallons of water. I've actually got. You're going to be able to see this very well. I've got through the post today. Moldavite. I love this stuff. It's I don't know if you guys have ever worked with Moldavite. It's supposed to be very good for manifestations, very good for qigong practitioners as well. It's good stuff. It's some people get very affected by it though. It makes them very tingly, and I knew somebody who had a piece of my Moldavite that I've been charging, and I placed it in their hand. It vibrated like mad. Apparently. Well, actually, I was sort of moving, but anyway. I digress. So we all ready for part 2?
Paul, I'm going to step off camera for 2 minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's all good.
All right.
Go and do what you need to do. So, Marilyn, how are you doing?
I am fabulous, thank you. How are you? I have been loving the summer weather. It's like having a free holiday.
It is, right?
See, no, there's a thing I always used to say is if we could guarantee British weather, why would you go anywhere? Guarantee it. Britain in the summer is awesome. It's gorgeous. I mean, where I live or where I work, there's actually a lake, the Lido, Lido. In actual fact, if you remember old Cliff Richard and Summer Holiday, where he sings, where they go and they're on this, like, you see this lake, and it's got a water skiing and jumping and all of that. When they're that's Twice at Lido. That's where I work. Was quite near to where I work, and what they've done, they did a like £1 million makeover, and basically it's been advertised all over London now as the London beach, the inland London beach. So it gets about 5,000. Just last weekend and probably this weekend, it had 5,000 people on the Saturday alone, all turn up at this Lido. So yeah, but it's one of those places. It's like England. If you could guarantee the weather, you wouldn't really want to go away because it's an awesome place to be.
But we are going to have the Watford beach back. We've had it for the last, I think, 3 years now, where they bring a load of sand in and they bring in a massive big screen so you watch movies, and it runs for a whole month from the end of July to the bank holiday Monday in August. And seriously, it was fantastic. I had a brilliant time last year. If there was stuff I didn't need to do at home, I'd just take my iPad with me, go and sit at the beach, do a little bit of work, put my sunnies on, watch a movie, have an ice cream. It was fantastic.
Do you know if Casio College is still there?
I believe it is. Yeah, they've got a couple of campuses here in Watford. Yeah. Yeah,
because that's where I sat. That was my first 2 years in baking. Was at Casio College, Watford. So I used to go there. Well, that was 90s. That was actually no 80s. I was at Casio College. So yeah, many. Well, I did the City and Guilds when they were still around. In baking at Watford, my first 2 parts, and then I did another couple in Hendon, and then I had to go to Sheffield to do the final part, which put me online as a pastry chef. But so I sort of know Watford ish. So yeah, cool.
Oh, you're a baker! How wonderful!
Yeah, as Chris knows, I've got many talents. I started off as a baker, and when I said I was going to be a baker, my qigong, he taught massage. He said, very good, baker's good at massage, kneading dough, good at massage. So he encouraged me to become a baker because of my dough kneading. And apparently that's one of the reasons why what was the and then I did that, and because I went to college, the old school college, I've actually in line as a pastry chef. So I was actually for about 3 years I studied under the chef for the Queen Mum when she was alive, so Paul Reddy. So he was my chef, and because of him, I ended up working for a week. There's a week training thing that Gordon Ramsay does, where you can go to one of his London restaurants, and you can train. You don't get paid, but you go there for a week and you go and do training. And I got because of my chef knew him, so I did that. And so yeah, I've been baker, been a chef, done close protection, and then there's the massage, and because of the baking and the chefing, I've also done 5-element cooking, or Chinese 5-element theory cooking. And yeah, that's and Daoist life coaching and Reiki and Qigong and Tai Chi. So yes, I've done a few things. It's the short version. But I am 47, so you can do fair. And I started when I was about 12, so you can do, you can do quite a lot in 35 years. It's just most people I know don't seem to have done a lot. I don't know. I just find it very odd. But there's a lot of people say, "Oh, I've only ever done that." Well, go do something else then. Go and. So, oh yeah, I was semi-professional ice hockey player for a while. It's my passion, ice hockey, and the roller hockey, ice dance, because my first ice skating rink. I was sort of born into Richmond Ice Rink, which is was the home of Torval and Dean, and Betty Turner, who was Torval and Dean's coach, was my coach for a while. So I learned from the coach who taught Torval and Dean. Yeah, so, I don't know. Little bit of Boggie history there.
That's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. It is what it is. Right. Okay. You ready, Kirk?
Ready.
Okay. All right. You mark it up. Start. Are you ready?
Yep.
5. San Chinjiao Surulian Part 2. Welcome to the Way of Mindful Consciousness, or more importantly, the Way of Kirk Kerber Part 2. Let's get back into the thick of things. So we were talking about, we talked about a number of things in Part 1, and if you've gone straight to Part 2, what you doing, you fool? Go and listen to Part 1 first, okay? But Part 1 was very cool about, we fleeted about a bit. We were talking about finding your path. We were talking about the different energy systems to a degree, about the chakras and align the chakras. We were talking about lifespans, like your soul. How long is your soul, your life predestined, or is it, just it lasts as long as it lasts? So that was really Part 1. So Part 2, where do we want to go? Where do we want to take it now?
Well, I have a bit of a random question, but I can kick us off.
I like random questions. Go for it.
So Kirk was talking about deceit earlier on, and I don't think he used the word view. He used another word, but I'm going to use the word view because, hey, that's what I understand. So I had a strange experience of looking at a picture of myself, but not recognizing myself. So it was from a different angle. And I remember what it was. It was about a master seeing the world how it actually is. And I just wonder if you could maybe explain how it is or why it is that we have such a distorted perception of ourselves and others.
Okay. Well, a couple things come to mind. You ever heard the parable or the story about the 5 blind men who were examining the elephant? And so one is in the middle, and he's like, "Whoa, the elephant is very big and it's very round." And the other one's got the tail, and he's like, "No, the elephant it's very thin and very small and wiry." And then you've got another one that's touching the tusk. "No, the elephant is very hard and sharp," and so forth. So how to see things as they are. I think there's always 2 versions or multiple versions of a person at any given time. which is another reason why I consider myself to be a shamanic healer, is because I can see all versions at the same time. And then if it's a client in front of me, choose to see the highest version of the person. And the highest version of the person is then what I would refer to as your angelic self, your Buddhist self, your divine intelligence self, something to that, something along those lines of language. It's the highest version of them. It's the healed version of them. So, you choose. And once again, in line with recalibration, the client is looking at maybe a diseased part of themselves, or looking at themselves through their shame or their pain or their history. And, I look at them and I say, and see how magnificent their history actually is, and the stuff they've overcome, and see their healed version and hand them their wisdom. And, then they walk away with that recalibrated version of themselves, and it's easier for them to live in that highest self of theirs. Whereas, if we're always directed to look at something a certain way, like in advertising, once again, PR, public relations is trying to get you to look at this company like with this way, when in fact, what are they doing? They're raping animals, or they're raping the environment, or they're doing this, that, or the other thing. So I hope that kind of like spins it in a way that you can understand.
Me too.
Let me put it to you like this. If you go into a movie theater and you're sitting there and all of a sudden something scary happens and everybody jumps, you sit there and say, oh, it's just a flat screen, you guys. It's a big movie. It's not scary. Or do you get scared? Or do you cry when, the person's crying? Or, you don't say, I'm not going to cry. So what holy people and the shaman and the sages do is, when the person comes to them to be healed, they're really coming to be reminded maybe of something, of the highest version that they are. The dark night of the soul, I walk in that dark room for them and I go, it's just an illusion. Here's your candle. We're going to turn the lights back on for you.
Cool.
There's this interesting thing. When I studied Oriental diagnosis and Middle Eastern diagnosis, Farasa, which is Middle Eastern, and Oriental diagnosis, all the Chinese diagnosis and the healing, there's this interesting saying, is that when you first delving into these systems, when you first start, you start seeing their energy, or you start with a diagnosis like the facial diagnosis, you start seeing the possibilities of illness. Is that the one thing that first dawns on you as a healing practitioner or a shaman, is that still everybody has issues, and it's that thing of, well, no, everybody isn't actually ill. People are either balance, and the purpose is to find your balance, but you can't find your balance if you don't have something out of balance to begin with. So, like the things of life that happen are there to help you find your own path. Now I'm suddenly thinking, I don't actually know if that actually clarifies what Kirk was saying, or if that's or Boggie's just gone off on one of his tangents. But I felt like saying that. And what I did want to say is, we have a new co-host has joined us. For those on Podbean, we have the great Savoy. Good evening, sir. How are you doing? Turn on your mic for a second. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys all doing?
I think, yep, we're getting the thumbs up. We are all cool. We are
that's
all
good.
for go. All for go. So, I don't know how much you've seen Savoy, but have you a question for Kirk? Is there anything you particularly would like to ask, or you'd like me to wait? Give you some time. Just give me a thumbs up if you want a bit more time. Or
Yeah, just give some time. Keep talking.
give you some time. That's yeah. You can kick in whenever you're ready, my friend. So, Chris, I'll pass it to you instead.
Okay, so back in part one, we was talking about meditation, and I'm still trying to get my head around this single person. I remember what the question was now. So basically, in society, there's a mentality of the individual. You are meant to be self-sufficient. You're meant to go out and earn money and get the resources that you need to survive, be it for food or whatever. But then with meditation, you're sort of suggesting that it's more a single effort, but if it's directed as part of a group effort, that has a more dramatic effect. Would that be right?
Well, let me put it to you this way. If I've got electricity going through my walls right now, so I can either plug in my cell phone or I can plug in a jackhammer and destroy the place. You know, it depends on how you want to direct the energy, what the intention is of the energy. I think there's, personal meditation is to create a space of stillness. When I teach people and I give them the spiritual medicine and homework of meditation, it's so they can know what their own energy is and know the vibration of their own energy, and then be able to filter out and clear out other people's energies and projections. Wait, you're going to have to hang on a second because we have somebody with a radio on the... There we go. Speaking of the inner stillness. So, you know what? During the break, there was a crow. And a crow is, it's one of the animals of the shaman, interestingly enough. We had a crow crowing outside the house here. So I don't know specifically, I don't think there's a person that lives in New York City or an urban center that I would connect to that doesn't want more peace and stillness and more truth and more divine intelligence in their life. So meditation and sitting in stillness and all of the above, there's a formal meditation practice, say Hindu mystic, Buddhist mystic, or something like that in a religious construct. And then there's, free form, which I teach, which would be, you need to understand what your thoughts are and what somebody else's thoughts are. Because there's a lot of stuff in the ethers. And so what I teach and tell and do is prayer, affirmation, meditation, contemplation. So all of those are healthy for our spiritual health, in my opinion.
Okay. If anyone else wants to jump in at any point, just wave their hands. But how do you, when you go to the contemplation stage, how do you know you're not just picking up the surface noise? How do you know you're getting something useful from your meditation, if you like?
Okay, well, if you were beginning at the beginning, okay, what you're going to do first of all is you're just going to sit in silence with no intention. Absolutely not try to do anything or see unicorns or rainbows or angels or anything like that. You're just going to sit there and get used to your higher self showing up in the same place at the same time, same amount of time every day. So that's going to be your step one and your level one. That's going to be your first things first. If you want divine revelation, or maybe you want to ask a question and have that answered through divine assertion, or you want to channel something, then that's going to take you sitting there, depending on your own, proclivities, spiritual, mental, emotional, and what your, medications you might be on, the, level of pain and static and trauma and shame in your body, So that might take anywhere. You know what? I got to tell you, it took me meditating around 5 years before I really understood what it can access for you, and what it means for me personally, and what I tell my clients what it's going to do for you.
Cool. So no shortcuts then?
Not really. I mean, I do tell people, especially like in the part one, we were talking about people that are old souls and people that walk in with spiritual gifts. Of like, you know what, you did this 100,000 lifetimes in a row, but guess what? You haven't done it in this lifetime, in this body, to reintegrate it in this body. So I'm sorry, no, you know what? Because they tell me, and the people I go to, and I go to shamanic healers and wise people, and they say the same thing. You had a countless number of lifetimes where all you did was you were alone and you just meditated alone, and that's it. And it still took me 5 to 10 years to be able to get it into this body, in this aura, what it means now, what it means me sitting here in New York City with, me and my dog and helping my clients and, all of that. So, if you were my client, Christopher, and you came to me and said, I want to learn meditation, or I want a stronger spiritual connection, then as Paul was saying, I would look and I would see. I would look and I would see, and then I would ask. Okay, are you an artist? Are you a musician? Are you a chef? Are you, what are your connections? What's around you? Where do you live? And then we can kind of get, okay, what I'd recommend is that you would meditate after work to get rid of some of these grosser energies you're picking up there. Same time, same place. And then you have the question of discipline. Nothing will streamline a person like discipline. You will be able to focus when you have discipline.
Okay. All of this, though, is like when you're talking with your clients, you're kind of giving this information to them from the outside rather than them gathering it from, say, the inside, from themselves. So is that ever a problem for you, giving them that external information rather than them discovering it for themselves inside to know themselves?
First of all, I don't carry a client no matter what. I will not carry a client. And if you want something easy, don't come and see me. I'm not that guy. Okay, so the person that comes to me and says, hey, I want my revenge body, my gym body, and, I just don't want to go to the gym to get it. Well, guess what? You're not going to get it. So,
okay.
What I recommend? I recommend you sit on the couch with the Haagen-Dazs and watch Netflix for 6 hours and say, I love my life, and I love eating ice cream, and I love watching Netflix. Okay, so that's would be like a greater thing for you, to just live in that joy rather than the conflict of, I want this thing and, I just don't want to do what it takes in order to get it. So it doesn't work that way here in the world of forms. On the other side, you think about something and it materializes instantly. So it's perfect over there, but no, I want a chocolate cake in this world and I want to taste it in my mouth and smell it and cook it. you're going to have the process. Okay, so what's the point, Kirk? What's the point? The point is, if you meditate for 6 months, you're probably going to have the aura, the mind, the body, and the spirit of a person that's been meditating for 6 months. If you meditate for 10 years, then you're going to have the person that has the aura, the mind, the body, and the spirit, and the cleansing of a person that's been doing it for 10 years. So I can't go into your house and make you meditate, especially because I don't see 99% of my clients, I don't see them in person. So I can direct you, and I can say, here's the exercise. You're going to start off by closing your eyes for 3 minutes every day. We're going to get your higher self to start showing up here so you can experience the difference. Then when they do that, then we go to the next level. Here are some of the things you will encounter, and that, you know, me and about 100 million other people have encountered that have meditated as a discipline on a daily basis. So we can kind of guarantee those things are probably going to happen.
It's this thing, isn't it? In the Chinese, they call it the golden pill. Is that a lot of people, whether it's through healing, whether it's through qigong or meditation or yoga, or even seeing the psychic, there's this thing of the, you know, they want their life to change. They want this radical change. But everything requires action. Everything requires you doing some sort of physical, even if it is to a degree of accepting a reality, but there has to be a physical action involved. Things at the moment in this reality won't just happen by you clicking your fingers. You do have to actually do something to actually help manifest it. So like where people's like traumas or you know, past is that you do actually have to let it go. You have to release it. And there is this society, like we were so you sort of said it was that, you know, if you want to sit on the couch, watch TV, and eat Haagen-Dazs, enjoy it. You know, actually enjoy doing that thing. Don't beat yourself up for it. If you whatever you want, you need to find some form of gratitude. You need to actually, you know, allow yourself to enjoy it. Because if you're not going to enjoy it, there's no point doing it, because yourself up for doing it, whatever that it is. That will create negativity, that will create friction within your life, and that will create problems. So maybe not weird, but this thing of one of the first things is this gratitude. If you're, you know, if you don't feel happy, you want to sit and eat Haagen-Dazs, go and sit and eat Haagen-Dazs. If you want to get fit, if you want to have a super fit body, you're going to have to get up off your backside and go to the gym or go and do something. But then, you know, you got to pay that price, whatever that price is. What do I know? Anybody else has any questions or, you know?
Yeah, Kirk, I would like to ask you, if I may, a kind of personal question, if you don't mind. I would like to know where your level of certainty comes from, because I'll just put this into context. For example, if you see behind me, there's packs of angel tarot cards. I love playing with the angel tarot, but have I ever seen Archangel Michael? No. I work with the higher self, and I work with the Avaiku, the Huna guides. Have I physically seen them? No. Although I have a sense that they really exist. And some of the things you've talked about with regards to, you know, repairing the soul, the 22 levels, being able to see how long somebody's got on this planet, you are very sure and very certain, which I love. So where does that certainty come from? Is it through the experiences that you've had? Is it through the wisdom and knowledge that you've gained from some of your teachers and mentors along the way? Where does it come from?
Good question.
Some of it I walked in with, I got to tell you. I mean, a point blank, even as a kid, was able to just look at somebody. Unfortunately, a lot of the adults around me had a vested interest in me not knowing the absolute truth. So I kind of had to go and have an entire process with this, to seeing what I saw, knowing what I know, but also not letting somebody kind of invalidate me at the same time. So I guess I accrued wisdom with the gift as well. Absolute certainty. First of all, the wisdom of using the gift comes, you know, from using it a lot in this lifetime, and a couple of times, I hate to say it and I have to say it, being just wrong. Nobody's ever 100% part of the time, but if it's somebody asks a specific question, I will either get the answer directly and immediately, or I just won't get it. And so I don't think I'm under the pressure to always produce the right answer, because I know that that's not how a spiritual gift always works. When a client comes to me and asks for a reading, once again, I offer like 9 different things, but my basic is the oracle session. The minute that they send me the letter, they compensate me, they agree that they want the reading, that reading can occur over 3 weeks time, not just a face-to-face. So I tell my clients, you know, the way my gift operates is I could get answers before, I could see you person to person and not get anything, and then 3 days later get the entire reading, if that helps you. So I can be certain because I don't have to be sure, if that makes sense. So if I have a client, if I hear, if a client says, how long am I going to live, or something to that effect, you know, I just point, instead of telling them you've got 40 more years, I say, are you done yet? Let's just start there. Are you done? Especially if somebody's really sick, or somebody comes to me and asks about another person, you know, I would say, you're going to have to go to that person and ask them, are you done? So kind of in specific regard to that. In specific regard to clairvoyance, you know, I was actually in my 20s, my first teacher was a woman. Most of my teachers are women, and this is my second major teacher. She just told me, you have all spiritual gifts. So in essence, that kind of helped me to direct and to have some confidence, okay, is another thing I think you might be asking about. I also do backups because I've been studying the tarot. So when I give an oracle session, I start getting what I'm getting if the client is right in front of me, or I might throw a card and get several backup validations on things. So if I'm not entirely sure, you know, I'm never going to tell a client like, hey, you're going to get in a plane crash next week. Like, that's not me.
Be nice knowing you.
Yeah, like, so that's not what I do. But, you know, I'm not a predictive, I don't sell myself as a predictive person. So I don't predict because things can change constantly. With your next choice, the entire universe is going to change. With my next choice, my entire universe over here is going to change, perhaps. So, as far as seeing something, I do see energy and I do see angels, and I usually know what the angel is. And you know, it's just a greater quality of seeing and knowing, and also practicing. So, you know, and the last time that Paul and I and Christopher were here, we talked about what I was just kind of channeling at that time. Another thing is you have the intention, then you acquire the knowledge, then you have the application, and then ultimately you become the embodiment of something. So I'm not always the embodiment of divine intelligence. When I'm in front of a client, or when I know that the universe is going to send me, it's very clear I'm supposed to give this person a message. At that time, I am the embodiment of that for them. So direct knowledge, direct intuition, you know. And if I don't have the question, don't have the answer, I'll either say I'll get it for you, or you're not supposed to know that at this time, and you know, I don't get anything. You know, the people that are kind of like have such a vested interest in being like, I'm a predictive psychic or something, and I have to be right every time, all the time. You know, Marilyn, what I would say is, you know, do you want to be able to see the angels? And then we would work like that and say, let's get you to have more of an intention of listening and seeing and getting permission to have clairvoyance. So I think that maybe would be where we would start. But maybe you have the gift of clairsentient, which is you feel the angels. You know, okay, so when they're around, all of a sudden something changes, the atmosphere changes, and you kind of feel and sense, you know, I'm kind of feeling like, you know, Gabriel is around right now. If you want to work in the Christian canon, you know, I'm feeling Raphael right now because it's a certain temperature, and I usually feel him here, or some people might hear it.
Absolutely, no, that's absolutely spot on. I definitely feel it, and I hear them, and I kind of know where they're located. Now, you said it a couple of times, and I'm just so curious. And this, from what you've experienced with your clients, do people want to know how much time they've got left? Because in my brain, I'm now thinking, would I want? Because I always joke that I'm going to live until I'm 120. As long as I'm fit and healthy and well, and I've got all my faculties about me, I'd like to live to 120, but I'm
Don't
kidding.
joke about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Savoy. And so, do people actually want to know? And how would you say the information affects them? Because I'm trying to think in my brain, would I act differently if I knew I had 40 years left, or 50 years left, or 60 years left, or 20 years left? I'm not sure. Do you find that people want to know about how much time they've got left, and how does that affect them?
Can I add a bit onto that question?
Please do.
If you tell someone that information, do you actually help them manifest it as well?
Okay, I'll clarify. That does not come up a lot in my sessions with my clients, actually. It's very rare. The reason I would mention that is because as a healer, I would sense that they have fear that they don't have a lot of time left. And so they're really not choosing anything, and they're in a standstill. And so at that point, then I would have that information and see that and say, you know, I detect and feel very deeply that you don't feel like you have a lot of time left, but the message I'm getting is you actually do, and you've got like over 20 years to fill. Something to that effect. But no, it doesn't, people don't really ask that question a lot, to tell you the honest truth. Once again, if it's an oracle reading or a shamanic session, you know, I can see the timeline, and I can tell them, like, you know what, you need to speed things up. I may not tell them specifically why, or I may not tell them, hey, you've only got 3 years. You know, I may say, you know, you might want to start like really making some hard choices right now. That's what I'm getting.
And in my experience of people, when they have death as a set ideology, like, hey, I'm going to die, they don't do as many things as that's on their list. And it cuts out a bunch of possibilities, a bunch of plans that people have in their life, because they're stuck on one day they're going to die. So whether it's 40 years from now or 10 years from now or death in general, it's an ideology that cuts us back so much from our full potential.
I think we're getting an interesting subject here now. I think it's a view of the person. You know, it is like, because I know, like, you or done that. I know people who have had a certain amount of life, and then they go out and do their bucket list, and they'll do the opposite, where if they know they've only got so much lifespan, then they'll do everything they possibly can. Well, where if they didn't die in a period of time, they probably wouldn't have done. There's a Eastern saying of that a same line of where there was a duel. It was Japanese. It was a duel with a samurai. A samurai challenged this pauper. This pauper offended this samurai, and so this samurai challenged this pauper to a duel. And he goes to the local swordsmith and he says, please, I'll give you everything I have. Can you make me a sword? And can you teach me how to fight? And the swordsmith said, for your honor, I will teach you. I will, but there is nothing I can teach you to defend yourself against this samurai. So settle your debts. Say your goodbyes. Be prepared to die. So this pauper took the week, told everybody that he loved them and settled the debts. And when he faced the samurai looked deep into his eyes, and the samurai basically went white and said, I forfeit. And the pauper didn't understand. He says, well, why did he forfeit? He says, because when you are facing death and you have nothing to lose, you will do everything. You will leap the biggest building. You will do whatever it takes. You have nothing to lose, so you'll give it all you got. So there is this in the UK. There are people who say, live your life like, and in that theory of is that if every single if you actually didn't take things for granted and lived as if every single moment is precious, which it is, it's just we take it for granted. If you actually tomorrow was your last day on earth, then you would do everything you possibly can. You would try to make every moment count, which I think is an interesting concept. I had a theory that apparently I'm going to live until the year 2222, which is I'll be 252 years old, which is all very well, but if none of you are about with me, it's going to be really boring. So this is why I want to teach everybody qigong. So I have people around me. If I'm going to live that long, I want to make sure that everybody lives as long with me.
Marilyn, I'd just like to say, there's a futurist that you might want to Google with specific requests to how long you can be in body. But he's called a futurist. I think his last name is Kurzweil. And every prediction he's ever had, he's a futurist, has been proven correct and happened and materialized. And he says in the next 15 to 20 years, we as a race will find a cure for physical death, and all humans will become immortal. So don't worry about it. You just got to hang on for another 15 years. And, it's kind of open after that.
Well,
oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Thank you.
Because he says that, but the old legends, the legends in China and the legends in, I can't remember where else. I think it was the Sanskrit said that basically around this area, the 21st century, what is the era that we become immortal. Supposed to be that legend that says that that something happens that makes us, virtually or in essence immortal. And the whole Daoist thing is that on a low level, qigong and tai chi and the 5-element cooking, if you get it wrong, it makes you live a long life. You live a longer life than you, in essence, you'll live at least. The old ancient sayings say that the ancient Daoist were lived a lifespan of 250 years. And this was in the era of a Yellow Emperor, and the Yellow Emperor was 5,000 years ago. So if you get it wrong, you live for about 250 years, and if you get it right, you become immortal. So, but hey, what do I know?
So let's become a
Right. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Sir Voice, say again.
So let's become immortal.
Indeed, and why not? Well, your soul's immortal, or at least as I'm concerned, you are immortal. Your soul is immortal. You have existed according to the ancient knowledge, and according to Taoism, is that your consciousness, rather than soul for me, your consciousness has lived since the dawn of the universe, and then you just popped in and out of lifetime upon lifetime upon lifetime. So the only difference is like immortality in most people's eyes. Immortality, to talk about living forever, but in the ancient immortality, or the Taoist immortality, is that you stay in this incarnation forever, rather than reincarnating over and over again. Incarnation. It's Robino.
Oh, I've really enjoyed the show tonight, guys. I've had such a great input.
You've been listening, have you?
No, I've been working. I was just joking.
I thought you had. Oh no. Okay. Sorry.
Sorry, I missed the show, guys. I will look at it. I will have a look. You know.
Well, we haven't quite finished just yet. I mean, anybody got?
I've not been okay. Sure, so that everybody else could get a word in edgeways. Do you remember that week when Bobby wasn't on and everybody was able to give their opinion?
No, Robbie. For that to happen, I have to disappear for the whole show as well. No. I mean, we're not. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up. But so, any other questions? Any other statements? Anybody, Savoy or Chris or Marion or Robbie?
I have a quick question for Kirk. Kirk, if there was something that you wanted to share with everyone listening today that we haven't yet touched on, but you think is something that, in terms of the vibe that you're getting and where we're at now, what would you want to share that we haven't yet talked about?
Wow. Well, I've studied herbal medicine, I guess, maybe for the last 10 to 15 years. You know, there are herbs and mushrooms that can extend your life and extend the quality of your life. And I don't think I could stress enough of people to educate themselves on herbal medicine and aromas, how they can enhance your life. And also diet, the importance of diet on, as Christopher and I were talking, or that line of questioning, you know, perception. When people come to me and are depressed or have some emotional, mental illness, I don't ask them what their thoughts are. I ask them what they're eating. So as far as I'm concerned, and I think Paul would agree, 90% of spiritual, emotional diseases, you know, can be cured by making the life force stronger. I mean, wealth is really vitality. So I did have these, glad you asked, I did have these kind of handy. Two things, and I'm not going to tell you about them, but I'm going to highly recommend that you check them out. One is reishi mushroom, and one is foti root, which is a root, and it also goes by the name of ahishawu, is, I believe, the correct medicinal name. Can you see that?
Used in TCM as well, yeah?
No TCM over here for me, since I'm in recovery, but traditional China, no, THC, no.
Are you sure you're in recovery? No,
TCM, yes. Yes, I've been studying, and you know, I don't believe everything can be cured through energy once it gets into the body at a certain point, I think you might have to seek Western. But the most ideal situation is both of those in tandem. And other than that, I don't. Here's the thing, especially if you're an old soul, and this is a Taoist tenet, if you want the world to be awoken, then awake all of yourself. So I can't wake up everybody, and I don't even know if they should be awake.
You're not here to wake everybody up.
I can't. Everybody has to bottom out on their own. So I think really the most gentle thing is what I am is a wise person, a Daoist shaman, healer guy. Let people have their process too. Which even just doing that will heal them and validate them. My only thing, I don't even know if I would be here if it wasn't for my concern about the animals. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that we have a humane world for the animals, because they can't speak for themselves and they can't get away.
Do you feel that will be the turning point for humanity when that is a standard?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Human being, even if they're trapped or tortured their whole life, somewhere their soul is going to be able to use that as a wisdom and some kind of lesson. I don't think that's true for an animal. So the people that are the old souls, you need to come out of hiding for the animals. It's about what I get.
Yeah, I agree. There's a documentary about it's a mockumentary that's been made, Simon Anstall, and it's 50 years in the future, and it's about how we deal with the recovery of having had eaten animals in the past. And there's all these people in circles that are dealing with the fact that they've eaten sentient beings, looking back at the barbaric past that we had as humanity and how this all went on. It's very cleverly couched, in the past, that we're an evolved race now, we're a bit more evolved species, and we're looking back at the trauma from having participated or allowed or been complicit in that happening. Just as bad as actually us doing it ourselves, which is like a turning point in the consciousness of the thought of man, of what are we actually complicit in that we just accept as a societal norm because that's how we've been raised or that's what society says. You know what I mean? But as being a turning point for when we treat animals with that love and respect and dignity and care and compassion, that will have such a knock-on effect for the whole of humanity. Of even thinking about it, even thinking about it without having a knee-jerk reaction of saying, "Well, you're telling me what to eat?" People have a kind of knee-jerk reaction when you even mention anything like that. How far does that compassion go? And how deeply can we say, "Oh, I'm a spiritual person. I do this. I'm a healer. I do that." Whilst having your bacon sandwich.
While having a bacon sandwich.
Fuck bacon sandwiches.
Okay, right. So,
I just warmed everything up.
All good. It's all good in the hood. So, has anybody? Well, let's start wrapping up. So, has got any comments? Savoy, you've been quite quiet. Well, the last hour. But is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to ask Kirk?
Just keep on going. Keep on doing your thing. Keep on ascending. Keep on meditating for as long as you can, for as long as you want. And I do have a question to ask you in the green room behind the scenes. But seriously, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing epic. You're growing. The soul that was told to you is like really coming out, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Who's next? Let's see if I go what on my screen. So Robino, have you got any questions, any comments?
No, thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to seeing the show. I'm sorry I couldn't have joined you, Kirk. Nice to meet you anyway. You know, I'm working while I'm on the show, so I just have to answer calls as and when I get them. But the next time I'll catch you on the next time, yeah. But nice to meet you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the show was all about tonight, you know. But so my apologies, but yeah, nice having you, nice meeting you. You know, I can tell you're a great energy healer. You know, fantastic.
Cheers.
And Marilyn, next on my screen.
Have we got time for another question, or are you just saying thanks and goodbye?
Go on. Do a question. You're nearly as bad as the questioner. Go on, I dare you.
So one of the things that we, you know, the word manifestation has come up a few times. You know, Sifu has said it. You've said it kind of a couple of times, Kirk. So can I just quickly ask you, from your perspective, you talked about on one side things happen just like that. The other side, action is required. Hold on. Action is required. And so from your perspective, what would you say affects the speed of manifestation in this lifetime once you have clarity about what it is you want to create?
Great question.
Okay, here's a couple of things. You might want to look up the exact definition of manifest versus materialize, for starters. So we have create, attract, materialize, and manifest, okay? So those are kind of some of the things. You need a little bit broader, not you specifically. In general terms, you know, if you were a client, I would say, you know, we need a little bit broader how to get you to receive what you desire and how to think about what are you trying to do, why are you trying to do it. You know, maybe you're trying to have something that actually is just the representation of something else. You know, if somebody comes to me and says, I want $1 million, I'm not going to ask them to justify that. If they just say, hey, I just want $1 million, I'm like, well, then you're pretty much the highest evolved with that as you can go. But do you have a why? Well, I want to travel. Well, I want a big house. So the $1 million represents comfort, or the $1 million represents free time or freedom. In specific answer to your question, you don't always want something to materialize too quickly. And, you know, people that come to me and they say, I want absolute enlightenment, I'm like, I don't really think you understand what you're asking. So maybe you don't want that. Maybe you kind of want what you think is going to come with that. Here's a couple more words. Being aligned. If you want something to be more streamlined and materialize right on time, you know, you can say, here's your communication with the universe would need to be strengthened. That's one exercise. Use words and think in the constructs of I allow, I'm aligned with, allow, align, accept. I accept that, you know, divine wealth is mine. You need to understand basic principles of maybe conjuring, attracting, once again, materializing, and manifesting. But, oh gosh, I just lost the thought. Let me see. General or specific. So if I say, you know, I want my revenge body and I want to weigh 165 pounds and I want it to be all muscle and I want to look 10 years younger, that's a very specific intention. And now, because it's specific, we can go about and check the boxes off as we get them and get a realistic timeline for something to happen, okay? You know, if I said, bought an empty field and said, I want my dream house built in the next 2 hours, okay, it's just not possible. If I say I want to find my dream house online and, you know, in 24 hours, you understand? So you're dealing with, let me see, try to be realistic, try to align, try to allow. And, you know, you can also say, I'd like this or something better. So,
love you.
Cheers. You know, you need to know specific or general. So, hey, I just want to be in great health. Okay, that's a general overall thing that you're trying to materialize and create and manifest and attract. If you say, once again, your checklist, you know what I mean? So you have to don't always think the fastest thing is going to be the best. You know, I try to caution my clients, and that's, you know, that's what I'm here. That's what wise people are there for, is to, you know, a child is going to be like, I want a milkshake for every meal. But the adult is going to be able to say, no, I don't think you do. So, you know, some gentle contemplation, affirmation, and then asking, you know, your general higher self and also the universe. But, you know, if you do want something fast, call me and I'm going to talk you out of it. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. But if you insist, then, you know, I'm going to light the right candle, and I'm going to put the thing around you, but I'm going to say, you asked for this. You asked for this. You never know what you're getting into until you get into it. You're never going to know. So a new level, a new devil. So, you know, go in with your eyes open and let it be a speak to several people. Like, so you know, you're going to get in that boat, you better take some big heavy oars, because you don't, you know what I mean? I hope that kind of at least broadens why.
Fantastic, thank you. That is, I love it, thank you. And that's very much in alignment with what I'm always saying to my clients as well, in terms of almost be careful what you wish for, and have clarity that, you know, you never quite know what the grand plan is if you try and accelerate things artificially and speed them up. So that's brilliant, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for
awesome. And finally, the questioner.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show and putting up my questions. Hopefully they all sort of made sense in one way or another. So once again, thank you for being on the show.
Which is always a good thing.
Your questions are awesome.
And your questions are your questions are awesome, but also Marilyn's questions have been pretty awesome tonight, I will say as well. She's definitely come up with some right corkers, as I would say. So well, I'll say, I mean, me and Kirk, we go back a bit. I think it was around 2010. We sort of, I think it was near that time, wasn't it? 2010, 2012. I think you and I have known each other for some time.
200 BC, I think you were talking about, right? Did you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. So, and of course, well, in this lifetime anyway, I think, yeah, Daoistically, I think, yeah, you and I are about back in several lifetimes. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Is this your third one or second one?
It's the second one. I mean, if each 2 parts is one show, it's my second time.
Yeah. Because the original shows were just like, it was originally a 2-hour show, and then we've put them into 2 parts. But yeah, you're more than welcome, you know, to come back again, you know, at some point. I mean, we're booked up now to next year. But love to have you on the show again, and we can explore a bit more. And I'm sure the codes, whoever they will be, will have some questions for you. So as always, thank you so much for being on the show, my brother. Thank you, Kirk. It's always good having you in the show. You always entertain me very well, and I hope the fellow co-hosts and the guests, so the viewers, even our fans. So it's good to have you yet again on the show. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'll be bouncing on to your show at some point again. So, so thank you so much, Kirk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, we might have a change of plan. The original guest has had a family problem, so that they might not be about. So I'm looking to see if I can find a filler for next week. But hope you enjoy the show. And again, you can look on podcast. On podcast, we are simply as The Way Of on podcast. So you'll find all the shows. You can also find us on YouTube, which is under Sifuboggie. The playlist for the shows will be there. We are also on Facebook as The Way Of Mindful Consciousness. Say that the right way. Yeah, no, conscious mindfulness even. And also, you will also find us on The Way of Learning, which is the group page on Facebook, and where co-hosts get to share different things, and it is like a learning curve. It's a group to learn more stuff, to delve a little bit deeper. So hope you enjoyed the show, and it is goodbye from all got their mics off. I don't know if they want to say goodbye, so it's goodbye from Manning.
Oh, thank you so much, Kirk. I so enjoyed that. It was enlightening, inspirational, mind-opening, and I know we're just scratching the surface with everything that you've got to share. So thank you so much for a wonderful evening.
Marilyn, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Shakti.
Shaki. Sorry, brother. I remember that the first time I met you was watching one of your YouTube videos and hearing you say that, and then they'll always remember that. So it's thank you very much, and thank you very much from Savoy.
Thank you, and ascend everybody. You guys are awesome.
And so are you.
Namaste. Shakti.
And finally from Robbie, you're saying it somewhere. Robbie will be watching back saying, aye, bye. And finally from Chris.
Thank you so much, and bye, everybody.
Good to see you again. Shakti, namaste.
Shaki, namaste. So take care, guys. Next time, love, chi, and Shen from The Way of Conscious Mindfulness.